Welcome to Giving You More Than Numbers, CASS's business support podcast, your go-to resource for practical business advice and expert insights.
So, Jackie, we've spoken about all, and Paul, to be fair, we've spoken about all of the KPIs and how they're going to allow a business owner to understand what their business is doing. But actually now, so we know what they're doing and what the KPIs are actually telling us, but how can a business use those to actually then make better decisions?
Well, I think I said previously, the answers are always in the numbers. If you want to buy a new piece of machinery or take on a new member of staff or put your prices up, you shouldn't just be making that from the gut, because sometimes our gut is right, isn't it? But the truth is, when you're in business, you've got to have the evidence and the reasoning behind that. And looking at your business numbers will enable you to look at whether you can afford to do that. So the problem is, in this day and age, because we have so many apps on our phone and we can check our bank balance any time, business owners think, oh, great, I've been paid. That means I can spend this. And actually, I ban my clients from looking at their banking app. You shouldn't be looking at your banking app, because that is just a tiny minute of where it's telling you what cash is in there. But you don't know if all of that is due to go out or some of it is. So going to your Xero will give you a much better indication of where your business is sitting right today.
Yeah. And if you're not sat in front of a computer or a Mac, Xero has got both a tablet app, which is a slimmed down version, but it gives you those core details. And actually, you go one down from that, it's got one on your phone. So a little bit like you, it's about educating clients. Go and look at Xero on your phone rather than go and look at your bank on your phone, because you get a greater insight. Paul, is there any indicators that you think a business should probably put at the top of the list, and those that are nice to understand, but probably doesn't make any material difference if they don't understand?
Yeah, so I'm not a business owner, but from a Xero perspective, we produce a report quite regularly called the XSBI, so Xero Small Business Insights. Every time we produce this report, it always highlights the debtor days within a business.
So debtor days, just to put it into, let's call it our language. So accountant language, debtor days in
money owed to you.
Yeah, money
owed to you. So it's we did a lot of research on this, and each year we keep looking at this to see if we're making an impact. So in terms of our research, if you're not using any accounting software at all, and you're just using spreadsheets or a carbon copy book, on average, it's 57 days for your invoices to get paid. If you are using Xero, good, you're on Xero, it takes on average 24 days for a bill to get paid. If you are using Xero with a payment solution,
so such as go cardless, Stripe,
on average payment is 10 days. Mm-hmm. So for us, if you follow Xero on social media, we go to Parliament. We all our Xero senior leadership team are there, just supporting small businesses about reducing debtor days, and we're a firm believer of actually using payment providers with Xero. Yeah. So the key metric on one of our reports is your debtor days. So once your data starts aggregating, it will give you an indication of how long it takes you to get paid. So that, for me, and a priority for Xero, we're really trying to help bridge that gap. Because at the end of the day, cash is the lifeblood of UK business.
That's absolutely right. I work with a lot of trades, have done historically, and that is their biggest problem, actually, not getting the money in. Because just historically, for whatever reason, if you're a trade, you don't expect to be paid until afterwards. Yeah. And then there's all of the little snaggy bits, and you get paid another week later and another week later. And at least in Xero, and by having a scorecard of sorts, you can work out when you're going to have that cash flow in, which allows you to buy the supplies for your next job. And it is absolutely key. I would say it is the lifeblood, having the cash, but not what's in the bank. Yeah. The real cash that is yours to spend.
That disposable cash is probably the right phrase.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And that leads us probably nicely on to, we've got all this cash in the bank. We know what our commitments are now, because Xero is actually giving us that insight into, and if Xero's not giving it, your accountant is doing it, giving you that insight if they're managing it on your behalf. But as a growing business, there is a temptation, I think, to go all guns blazing and we're making money, brilliant. But what common mistakes do you see? I guess you get lots of businesses that are on that growth journey, but they've plateaued and they're now going, well, how do we go next?
Yeah.
So what common mistakes do you tend to see these businesses make, and what's your advice to avoid them?
There's many different ways that when people plateau that they've missed the point a little bit. And most commonly it's back to, again, something I've said previously, is that they have this badge of honor of not spending on marketing. Because lots of businesses get quite good amounts of revenue coming in and they kind of find themselves in a place where they're making a nice little bit of profit, but they're not quite sure how they got there.
Yeah.
And suddenly they have to realize they've got to systemize stuff. They need to understand what they've got available to spend to acquire a customer. And that's huge. That is a huge thing. Most business owners that you ask, you say, well, what are you prepared to spend to get a customer? They won't have an answer for you because they go, oh, I don't know. What, £50, £100, £500? When I was running my temp business, when I was still in that business, when I finished there in 2021, we were allocating £575 to get a customer. So I knew.
What was the average customer return for you?
So that was about £7,000.
So you're talking probably somewhere around 8%.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But that allows for the fact that you do get some word of mouth and some not. So 575 for us was great, as I knew that would work for us. If you're a business that's got a recurring, got retained customers where they're paying you monthly, you might actually use the whole of the equivalent of the first 3 or 4 months spend to get that customer, because if you know they're going to stay with you 2 years, 3 years, you can afford to front load. You can definitely afford to front load as long as you've tied them in a little bit. So it's being savvy about understanding the profitability, understanding the value of a customer, whether that be a one-off or a lifetime value, and actually doing the thinking behind it to work out you can spend money to get a customer. I'm meeting loads of people scared of Google and Facebook. Because they go, but they just take your money. Well, they do take your money, but if you're doing it properly and you're following up properly, I'll guarantee you, if you put the money in at the top, more money comes out the bottom. Otherwise Google and Facebook wouldn't be doing their job and they wouldn't have more people investing in it.
Yeah. Paul, from you going out and visiting other sort of partners, like you do with us, what tends to be their feedback on their own customer acquisition? Because we tend to find that a lot of our clients are coming on the back of poor service, but some of them is, I just need an accountant. So I'm really intrigued to understand, if you like, just from almost an accountant's perspective, what's their common mistake that people come to you and go, oh, we should have done, or we need to do? So
acquisition of new clients for a practice.
Yes.
Yeah, just the reliance on, linking back to what you said, Jackie, the reliance on referrals now, the industry's changing, so the accounting space is changing, and you'll find out a lot of modern practices are social media influencers and are online, and the new generation of your clients coming through are not the ones that are going to look through the yellow pages and probably speak to their friends. They're going to look for TikTok. They're going to look at social media. So I'm seeing a lot of that.
Yeah. And I think that very much resonates. And I think that's a business thing now. The generations that we're working on, where we're not on Gen Z anymore, whatever it is now, if they cannot do it on their phone, they don't want to do it. And I think that there's very much a pivot in all businesses to now look at those acquisition routes. But I guess one of the things that really does stick out when we talk to clients about, well, why haven't you met those targets, has always been a spent in the wrong areas. And it's, I think, the piece of work that we now try and encourage clients, and it comes back to exactly what we've said before, is look at where you're spending and what return is being given. And that data does exist at hand in a bit of software.
Exactly. Because if you're doing a campaign on Facebook ads, say, and you don't measure what you actually sell off the back of that, then you've not done your job properly as a business owner, have you? And the good thing is that Xero can track that because it will know exactly what you spent on the leads. The important thing for you as a business owner is to make sure that you're doing the follow-up and you're then
Yeah.
attributing that follow-up that from that campaign. So if you put a flyer, you need to put like a code on so you can track it's from the code. If it's a Google My Business profile, you might get a code or a particular phone number, a tracking number. And those all you can work with what you're saying, which is we can look at the costs and then look at the revenue that's been created and see what things work. And that you can all pull out for us as business owners and without us having to do the hard work, which is great.
I guess we've all very much hit on the biggest mistake that a business makes when growing is chucking money at marketing, whether that's a lot of money or not a lot, but not following up on that money, whether that's a little bit of analysis on have I had an ROI, return on investment, or actually, am I chucking my money down the wrong channels? I've been there. When I first started, I did everything via Facebook, but not targeted ads. It was literally just here I am. And I blew £1,000 in 3 weeks and got nothing. And then when you start to talk to the experts and they start going, well, actually, did you target it? And did you time it? And is Facebook really where you want to hit your clients from? So I think that has very much sort of given us, if you're going to want to continue to grow your business, marketing is at the core, but actually targeted marketing.
Absolutely.
And I know we're just talking about KPIs in this episode, but actually that metric of return on marketing spend is probably the single biggest one outside of that big flashing what profit have I made. I think that's where we very much
and just as a tip for all your listeners, I have one really strict rule, and that is don't ever do a certain type of marketing because somebody rings you up and offers it in. Because if somebody's ringing you up, they're selling space. You need to do your marketing based on exactly what you just said, where your client hangs out, who your client is, number one, and where they're hanging out. And that's where you need to be advertising. That's where you need to put your money. And then you need to test it and track it and split test it and make sure that you hone in on the things that are most profitable. And that's where Xero is really supportive.
Brilliant. We've spoken about trends and KPIs, and I think that's really easy for, let's call them standard businesses that don't have to deal with seasonal trends. So those ice cream men or those theme parks. So how easy is it to manage KPIs for seasonal based businesses?
Well, I think the first thing that, again, with clients that we look at from their balance sheet, from their P&L is, and I might have used the wrong word there, balance sheet, apologies. The first thing we need to find out is what their break even is.
Yep.
So if we know what the break even is, so for example, my temp business, I knew that across the year, every month we needed £33,000. That's what we needed to just pay the staff, pay the rent on the unit, all those kind of things. Now, I know as well that in January, February, March, October, November, no, I'm deadly serious. 7 months of the year, we would not turn over £33,000 because that's not how the wedding industry works. You know, not many people get married in a tent in January. Let's be truthful. So as a business owner, you have to know what's happening in your business, what's happening in your industry. And then you need to plan for that. And that's back to the budgeting and back to the following the trends. And that's where your graphs are really, really useful, because actually what I knew is that by the end of September, I needed £200,000 in my bank.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I wasn't going to last till next May.
To meet those commitments.
And it's really, really important. And if people are just looking on their banking app, they're going to go, whee, I've got £200,000. I'm going on holiday. But actually the truth is that was not pure profit. That was just money that was ready to pay us through the winter. Now, ours was very, very extreme, a bit like your ice cream. Yeah. But every business will have some level of seasonal trend. And the thing to do is to track that data and have a look, because...
And I think you hit the nail on the head around look at your bank and see cash. So even if you're not working with a business coach and you're managing your own business and your accountant sees you once a year, but why? See them quarterly. I actually think that using some of the challenger banks, and again, we're not promoting challenger banks by any stretch against high streets, but have a look at the likes of a Starling or a Monzo that allow you to operate with pots inside your bank account. That means you can tuck away money during the flush times that you can then pull back in in those lean times. And that's just a little piece that we've learned with a couple of the businesses we work with, that those pots, again, it's just a KPI in terms of we know the peaks and troughs, and that allows them to actually survive.
Thanks for listening to Giving You More Than Numbers. Subscribe for more business insights from Team CASS.